Hello, everyone. This is a whole new format. We come to you via video. So
I know.
welcome to the Chai Break podcast video version. Right, Rama?
Or as we call it, the Chaiversations.
Yes,
Yeah.
Chaiversation.
That's going to be a new thing. It's a
Yes,
Chaiversations. Yeah.
definitely.
We've
Yeah.
taken
And we just have to say on that Chaiversation note, recently we shared on social media and asked everyone to share what a Chaiversation means to them. And OMG, we were blown away. The number of people that resonated with what Chaiversation means and how chai is such an integral part of conversations, how we've always said it's a conversation starter. And, when me and Rama were reflecting on, how we coined Chaiversation and what it's become today, it was more than just a conversation or a sip of chai. It was more of a feeling, it was that warmth and that cozy, comfortable feeling, right,
it's
Rama?
the it's like feeling being at home in in a nice wintry evening or morning or whatever time you choose. You just how people like to just cuddle with a hot chocolate.
Yes.
That's how chai is. Chai is that
Yes.
comfort drink when
Yep.
you really want to like relax,
Yeah.
unwind, and have a cup of chai and start contemplating. I think many of our conversations, and for folks who have heard us over the past year or so, know that we actually, start introspecting and contemplating a lot of issues. And I think that's what it is. It's like comfortable space, comfortable people, and
Mhm.
having more easy conversations that just flows. Conversation.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Ah, so, for all the gains that we've had this year, I think one of the biggest things when we look back, we owe it to all our trailblazing, inspiring podcast guests.
So many wonderful guests. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
each one of them with their stories of success, of hardship, of self-realization, of finding purpose, and so much more. We Every episode we recorded, and as you all know by now, we record our episodes, try at least to record it first thing in the morning, right? And it would just leave us with this huge, boost of inspiration, renewed energy, and belief that, we can just get through anything if we put our mind to it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it was a perfect time. I have always left every episode with a feeling of like, wow, each person's story has been unique in their own way. And each of them came with a life lesson that to teach. And each of them is a student, always made it clear that they were students for life in whatever
Yes.
they did.
Yeah.
So inspiring, so
Mhm.
inspiring. And I'm hoping the audience were able to also get a thing or two from our episodes. We've got
Yeah,
some great
most.
feedback, and thank you all for that. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So Rama and I are going to do a little Q&A, right?
Mm,
Reflecting as a recap for 2022.
yeah.
So Rama, first question. What is
Mhm.
something you tried, learned, or did for the first time in 2022?
All right. So I try to like always learn something every year. Last year it was yoga, became a yoga instructor. This year, 2022, I got into meditation, but not any meditation. I stumbled upon this YouTube video on Yoga Nidra, which is the art of transformational sleep. I was hooked onto it. I mean, it was amazing. Basically, it is using the biological process of sleep and getting into a meditative state. And so
Mm.
I tried it, and then I was so intrigued. I did it every day. I found a profound benefit out of that, more calmer, more focused, more grounded, and more self-aware. And I just decided to become a Yoga Nidra instructor. So that was my new thing. So in
Yay!
2022, I did a course with the Amrit Yoga Institute, and yeah, yeah. So that was. I'm now a Yoga Nidra instructor, but most of the time I just do it for myself or for my family. But it's been fun. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
What about you,
amazing.
Shweta?
2022 honestly has not that I went into it consciously wanting to do a lot of firsts, but it was a year of big firsts. For one, I performed my first, I'm an Indian classical dancer, for those of you who don't know. So I performed my first show in New York City. That was big. And following that, I did two solos in New York City, which for Soho House, one in New York, and another for another corporate event. So those were big learning experiences, and I am oh so grateful for that. And then the other big thing I did, circumstantial, but nonetheless very, good, it worked out for good, was that I quit my full-time job.
Oh, that's big. That's
That
big.
is big. That is
Yeah.
big. I never thought I would embrace it in the way I did. And I think just a lot of work on myself and, my perspective and the way I think kind of really helped that. And I also started teaching Indian
Mhm,
classical dance for the first time.
mhm.
And I realized that, with any craft or anything, like knowing it and doing it yourself versus
Oh, it's
teaching,
different.
it's a whole other muscle that you have to, learn how to use. And yeah, I worked through some of the discomfort and like being like, oh my God, what am I doing? Do I even know this? Like, what do I do? To being like, okay, I got this. And yeah, 3 of my batches, we had a little winter recital, and to just see them perform, I was like, oh my God, these are my students. So yeah, that was all of that big stuff. And yeah, I am just ready to take on more new challenges for 2023.
It's been a roller coaster year, I must say. I don't know how this year passed, but that
Yeah.
that only says that how busy we were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exceptional year for us because that was a year we actually met all these wonderful women that
Yep.
we call our tribe in Chaiversations. So it's been a
Yes.
sensational year for us. And I
Yeah,
hope it
and
has
each of these
been.
women have been so gracious. And I
Mhm.
think, and as soon as we were like reached out to them and said, hey, would you be interested? Because after all, we're still a growing small podcast, but each of them, they've been so, so, so supportive, and
Yeah,
they were excited for what we're doing and seeing the potential of what this can be. So all of that, just left us inspired to just keep going and, getting better at doing this, because even the interview format was new to us, right? It was
yeah,
just me and you just having our Chaiversation before.
yeah,
And now,
yeah.
when it's 3 people, the dynamics to work it all
Yes.
out. But yeah, it turned out all
Turned out
beautifully.
great.
So
It turned out great. Thank you, ladies. I hope you're listening to this podcast, but thank you so much for just generously offering your time. And
yes.
yeah, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
So let's see. What's the next one, Shweta? What is the one thing you learned about yourself?
Mm. Getting comfortable with uncertainty. Something that uncertainty, like I think with most, it's just a human tendency, but I've
Mhm.
been freaked out by change
Oh,
always,
wow.
all my
I can
life.
attest to that, people. Yes.
All my life. And Rama, I think, has seen the transformation in that
Yes.
sense, that I've
Yes.
gotten more comfortable,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
gotten more patient. And finally, I can say that this year I started believing in myself. Even
Good.
during the hardest time, I just learned to keep faith.
Hmm.
It's not that I didn't have those moments where I'm like, oh my God, it's not going to work out. But, I just persevered and pushed through those feelings, and just kept that faith. And honestly, it's just been the best thing I ever could do.
That's wonderful. I
Yeah.
think I've seen you evolve over the past year, and it's just been amazing to see you take on these new challenges, grow as, already a beautiful person and just become even more beautiful day by day. And somehow kind of keeping it all with that wonderful, cheerful spirit. So it's amazing. Um, I
What about you, Rama?
was about to say, yeah, yeah. So what is the one thing I learned about myself this year? I think I've learned that I am not a good multitasker. It's a very good thing to learn. I always thought that I am a great multitasker, but I think,
Uh-huh.
okay, let me rephrase this. I am a multitasker, but I enjoy focusing on one task at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think the appetite to do so many things is great. It's always been great for me. Every year I always do multiple things. But I think as I'm getting older, I realize that I find peace and joy in doing one thing at a time. Be it reading a book without interruptions of like my to-do list just popping in my head, or be it just even driving the car, just focusing on the road versus thinking, what will I do next? What's next? What's next?
Mm-hmm.
And making these calls, trying to mobilize things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I find peace and joy in just doing one task. So I've learned that I do not enjoy multitasking.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I feel like especially in today's rat race and everyone, being these like at least what it seems to be, especially on social media, etc. It can get overwhelming. So it's very nice that you've come to the realization and you've accepted it and you're like, this is who I am.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest part because I think we live in a world where it's so trendy to say that, we have apps that helps multitask. We live in a world that's so trendy to say I got like XXXX things done in this 1 hour. And then, that's very a productivity based work. And I've done
Mm-hmm.
all of that before,
Mm-hmm.
but it comes at a cost. I feel like I'm not I'm not able to complete one task really well. And I do
Mm.
5 different tasks in an hour and do the way I do. Um, so yeah, I find the Zen moment comes in just focusing on one task at a time.
Awesome. So this next one, is there one moment or one experience that stands out to you when you look back on 2022?
Is there one moment or one experience stands out to you? Well, I think I've come to realize that mental health is so important. I think it's not just one experience. I think it's just a series of similar experiences, especially especially when it comes to parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And me being a parent and
Mm-hmm.
becoming a parent for 3 kids now,
Mm-hmm.
um, and handling all of that and running the household and figuring out work and all of that balance has only exposed me to what my weaknesses are, because the more challenges one faces, I think the more triggers you
Mm-hmm.
see.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you realize, ooh, why am I talking this way? Why am I thinking this way? So I think parenting has exposed a certain side of my mental health, which I always thought was something I can take on. I've seen a lot of triggers just show up. And from that, I've realized that it's so important to have patience, tolerance, and just love and compassion at all times. It's so easy to just forget and just like flip and just like, gosh, can just you people do this, do that, and always keep telling tasks one after the other for the kids to finish. Then I realized that that's exactly not I was becoming a person that I did not want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just had to dial down and work on some of the triggers and essentially realize that it's okay. Even if the tasks were not, it's okay. As long as they're happy and healthy
Mm-hmm.
and they're cheerful and there's food on the table, things will be done.
Yeah.
And so that quietening of that mind, trying to focus on decreasing my triggers was probably a big thing. So that exposed a certain side of my mental health that I am now currently working on, which I think we will talk in the next season.
Yes.
It has a lot to do
Yes.
with our childhood trauma and
Yeah.
comes and
Yeah.
shows its ugly face as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
how you overcome that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's pretty deep and quite profound. Yeah.
yeah. What's about you, Shweta? What's
Ah.
that one moment when you look back that stands out to you?
Mm. Honestly, for me, it was reuniting with family back in India.
Oh,
After
nice.
3.5 years, I finally went back in Jan of this year.
Yeah,
I think that was, yeah, it was a moment I just waited and yearned so much for. And when it happened, it was the most fulfilling thing. Typically when I go back, I see all my friends, I do all of these different things, but this time in Jan we were still in the third wave of COVID and the pandemic in India, and that actually turned out to be such a blessing because I just stayed put, whether it's my parents' house, my grandparents, or my in-laws, and I just spent so much quality time with each of them, that yeah, it just kind of filled all that void of like, the 3 years that I did not see them. Um, that's one. And the other big thing is, you know, um, my grandfather passed away, as you know, right, in
that's right.
2021. So
Yeah,
I think, having to come to terms with grief, and how to deal with it, and especially because when I went back, it hit me really hard because it was the first time I was back in India, but I couldn't see Tata, so um all of that, and how I started finally understanding, the soul and the spirit and all of these very deep spiritual things,
Mhm.
whether it was in conversation with you or my friend Deborah. And, I had a lot of in-depth conversations about like grief and just understood how it just comes in waves. And, I just, when it came, I just let it come, you know, yeah. And also, you start seeing these signs and you start believing that, okay, there's some angel kind of trying to protect you. All of those were the kind of moments that really stand out to me. Yeah.
It's so interesting you're saying that. One of the things that I have also learned in the same line, in this on the same lines, I think it comes along with the parenting and trying to do many things at this year. We try to sell our house, we're trying to relocate, and we're trying to juggle all of this with the important stages of my kids who are going to senior year and other stuff. So it's a lot of going on. There's quite a bit of chaos. And one of the things before, always I used to be this person. It's like, oh, bring me anything. I got this resilience. I'll just take on anything and I will be done. But doing that can internally burn out a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that happen to me over so many years. And this year, it was a different feeling. I think the personal growth that you and I have taken on the journey over the last few years has taught me that this year I felt that, it's nice to take on so many things and prove to the world that you can do everything. But it's okay to just break down and just, if there's too much pressure to let the emotions out and say,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And just let it out and
Mm-hmm.
just feel how it is.
Yeah.
And then lighten your chest or, lighten your heart, and then come back and say, okay, now that I've let out the frustration, let me refocus and see what other stuff I can
Mm-hmm.
get done.
Mm-hmm.
That exercise I started doing this year, letting the frustration out. Before I used to hold it in, and always like, oh, I can do it. I can do it. But this year I've learned how to listen to my feelings. If frustration rears its ugly head, listen to it, let it go, let it pass through, and then come back to my state. So I
Mm.
think that's been great.
Yeah.
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 We're always
Wow.
taught not to be frustrated. We're always taught to give a smile, always taught to take it in.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Yes.
okay to say that I'm not okay today. It's
Exactly.
okay to say
Yes.
that I have too much going on. It's
Yeah.
okay to vent that frustration and then come back to a centered, grounded presence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Aren't we all about, talking about the uncomfortable here on the Chai Break
Yeah,
podcast?
that is
Yeah,
true.
no, totally. So, next question is, what is the one thing you leave behind as you step into 2023?
All right. So we talked about my triggers.
Mm-hmm.
I have become more self aware about that a lot this year. So before, I would not know that those were my triggers,
Mm.
reactions, and I would respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would be a downward spiral of overthinking. So now, what is the one thing that I want to leave behind are my triggers. In the sense, I want to leave behind the reaction to my triggers,
Yeah.
but rather kind of, huh, you're so, there's this, there, oh, so you're coming up. Mr. Fear, you're just showing up right now. Got it. All right, we'll deal with this. Or Mr. Frustration, you're just coming up right now. So just be more self-aware of how I feel at that moment when I'm triggered, and then let it go and actually kind of work around how a solution of not reacting immediately,
Mm.
but rather responding. So that's what I want. The
Yeah.
reaction to triggers is what I want to leave behind.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a long way to go with that, but I'm getting started.
Good. No, I think you make great progress. Like today I was telling you, like you're my little sister. Sometimes I want to give you a hug, and sometimes I want to give you a nice tight slap. Shwetha, stop it. You're just getting stressed out. Let's stop.
And Rama can tell from my text, if I'm stressed
Yes.
or not stressed.
When the many question marks come,
Exactly.
exclamations and questions. It's like it keeps going. It's a river, it keeps flowing. Question, 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 question.
Exactly. Oh my God. I do the same thing to Arun too. When he sees those question marks, he's like, relax, relax, take it easy.
So let's both work on the triggers then, not to react,
Definitely.
to respond. Yeah.
Definitely. What do I leave behind actually is my imposter syndrome. I've been very consciously working on it, and especially during 2022, as we were trying to grow our podcast, I was talking to a lot of people. I wanted to spread the word about what we were doing. And my imposter syndrome was was limiting me, because I was like, oh, it's just a podcast, a little thing, whatever. I don't know whether it's good enough. Should I talk about it? Because again, we're taught, right? Because if I'm talking about it, then, oh, she's just bragging about herself.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I feel like we've talked about it, I think in our season 1 episodes as well, that, as South Asians, this thing is constant, because you're always told just be humble, just um and so yeah, just talking about it and being proud of what we've actually accomplished, and believing that however big or small, it doesn't matter, because everyone's journey is unique. And the more I remind myself of that, and I'm just grateful for all the connections and all the opportunities that came by, and just being taking a step back and saying, hey, you can give yourself credit, because you have worked a lot towards this.
A lot.
You've put in a lot of yourself, and you've put yourself out there. And and I think in trying to slowly shed that imposter syndrome, what I've realized is that, and I think somebody we were speaking to, one of our guests, Divya was saying it. She's like,
Mhm.
if you seek out help, people will open their arms and help you. And that is something I greatly realized in 2022, because as we ran our giveaway, right, with Indian American actress Anjali Bhimani, and
Mhm.
running the giveaway, doing I had never done any of that. So, I remember reaching out to Gemini Bhimani from Desi Way, reaching out to Shilpa Beam, who was also our guest this season from Gloria, and just having a conversation like, hey, how do you do this? Like, how do you run this? What do you do? And it was just like basic questions, and they were so willing. There was no
That's
judgment. They were
amazing.
so open to helping. And I
Yeah.
think all of that kind of has helped and kind of solidified that, yes, it's time to let go of my imposter syndrome.
We live in a connected world, and we live in a community. I think this podcast, especially the season, with having all these guests come in, just kind of validated that feeling that we're never alone. We're a part of community, and all these beautiful women who came and talked about what they do and narrated their stories, just literally taught that to us, right? That they could not do what they did without a community's communal support.
Totally.
And these women are part of our community. And so it's just such an amazing feeling that suddenly we have this huge family that is only growing.
Yes, yeah, it's very exciting. So on that note, what is the one thing you look forward to in 2023?
Like I said, I realized that I don't enjoy multitasking. So what I'm looking forward to is really learning how to prioritize my time and really learning the beautiful art of saying no when my heart and soul is not in there. So in 2023, I'm hoping whatever it is that I do, I'm going to 100% love it, enjoy it, and do it because it just kindles that passion and that love for that thing. Otherwise, I think I should say a very humble no and walk away.
That's amazing, because it takes a lot to say no.
Oh, it takes a lot to say no.
Especially for you, Rama.
Exactly, you know me. It's been so hard to say no, but yeah, if I falter, just remind me.
Yes, I will. I will. So for me, my new mantra is What's the worst thing that can happen? It's a question I ask myself because, as you know, I'm in the crossroads of my career, with doing this digital marketing course, with my dance, and, a new potential job coming up in 2023, all of that stuff. So I'm just like, I want to put myself out there and give my best and, make those connections. And if an opportunity comes my way, I'm going to explore it and give it my best. And again, what I want to do is opportunity, yes, but have those opportunities line up with my values. I think that is something, because every single project that I'm doing right now is perfectly aligned with my values. And when that happens, I've seen how much I love doing what I do.
Yes.
I don't look at it as a job. I put in my 100%, whether it's helping my dance company with social media, it's helping another client with their website. Like, it's almost like my own, and that comes from a place of passion and value meeting. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right.
Okay. So the next question is, and this is something I started doing about 2 years ago. And it's a wonderful exercise. So let me ask you, what is your word for 2023? So let me to help you a little bit. So like in 2022, when I was thinking about it at the end of, 2021, I was like, my word for this year was growth for 2022. And growth in every, aspect of your life. So that a word that kind of encompasses everything you want to do. And kind of that stands at the very center, the core.
I think mental well-being. That's 2 words, but still.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why I was talking about the triggers and, prioritizing, learning to say no, and, learning to understand mental well-being as a parent, and not multitasking and stuff like that. I think all of that just boils down to giving that mental clarity, learning to learn from your triggers and respond and not react and things like that. So mental well-being is the top of my charts for the next year.
Awesome.
What about you?
Mine is okay. So my word is explore.
Oh, nice.
So explore kind of, branches out to every aspect, explore what my career options are. Something I've never, like an option is something I've never had in the last 8 years. I was tied down to my job because of my visa and, immigration stuff. So finally, now I can explore what options I have career-wise,
Nice.
Explore parts of myself that I did not know about, and explore as in continuing to be, open and in tune with all the good that is in the world, because I believe, as we've always said, in manifesting and in, being in sync with all the positive vibrations. So explore that and put yourself out there. So all of that comes back. And finally, explore new ways for us to grow this beautiful podcast and this community that we've been building, because, as you know, we've taken some big leaps this year. And we have a lot planned for 2023. So so explore is my word.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So what's next?
So you want to play this game now?
Oh, yeah, sure. I literally have to pull all my memories and just answer.
Yeah. So this one's like kind of choosing your favorite child, but we'll play it anyway. So do you have a favorite episode, guest, or story that stands out to you this season so far?
You go first, because I'm going to think for a little bit more.
Okay. So mine is Anjali Pujari, the anthropod from Bangalore. What really stood out to me was, like you were saying, it's kind of in line with what your mantra is, the world we live in, we're multitasking, we're doing all of these things, and we're go-getters, and we take pride in that. Anjali, on the other hand, she believes in the art of slow living. So, she's a creative, she's an artist. And she, I think, like, the way she explores, and I think one of the things she does is she has all of these different passions, right?
Mhm.
She's an anthro art curator, she's a chalk carving artist, she explores movement, and she plays indigenous instruments. Through all of this, she's kind of created this world of slow living. And I think one of the big things was she's not after like, oh, I have to get this job and earn this much money and, do this and buy this house and, the kind of standard that, is created by society. She
Mhm.
goes against the grain of everything that we know, that to call yourself successful. And she's so comfortable in that. She's so
She
comfortable
really
in that
is.
space, which is unlike anybody else's space, because there are far and few people doing what she's doing. And I think that's why that her story really stood out to me.
She is just a ton of fun. Anjali was one of my favorite episodes as well.
Yeah.
I think all of them are. Everybody has a unique story to offer. Um, for me, I really still fondly remember Deepa's episode. Deepa,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a time when I was also, kind of knee deep into yoga and spirituality, and a lot of what we discussed in that episode just rang a bell for me.
Mm.
Um, Especially, I think I was just enamored by the way how disciplined she has, her routine, and her story on how she really got to discovering yoga and her early morning routines, and just in a short span of time, how she was just got to develop her flexibility in doing all these
Yeah.
asanas,
Yeah.
and really how she used Ramayan and the
Mm-hmm.
story of Rama to really describe life,
Yes. Yes.
which was so which is so inspiring. And I always think about that episode when I want to develop a morning routine
Mm-hmm.
and keep that inspiration going. I always think about Deepa.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you are curious, guys, go check that out. Our episode with Deepa Pillai. It was very, very good. So the
Yeah,
next one is there one guest that personally left you inspired?
I think we kind of answered that question in a way.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Okay.
but I think there should be more than one guest, because I think every guest just left us
Yes. Yeah.
so
No,
inspired.
definitely. That's why I said this is a hard one.
It is a hard one. So
This
I
is
would
a
have to
hard
go
one.
on with quite a few. I think Shilpa was amazing. Shwetha with her story on the collection was amazing. I think I just felt Chandni was just so badass when it comes to, like, setting up a marketing agency, all, and kind of being the doing a business, and like kind of doing trading, or marketing and all of that. Sorry, venture capitalism and stuff like being a venture cap VC in a man's world.
In a
It's
man's world. Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
man's world, and really
Yeah.
talking to her about finance and what success is for her was so a lot of fun. I learned a lot from
Yes.
this episode.
Yeah. No, her episode is soon to be released, so watch out for
Oh,
that.
that's right. Oh,
Yes.
lovely. Oh, that's a fun episode. Yeah, you guys should all.
Yeah.
And it'd be how
Um,
to invest, in a man's world. So I think
mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of how it is.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
know,
there's tons of them.
so for me, what stood out was Shweta's episode, Shweta Mutkal of 8,000 Miles. And what really particularly stood out to me was her thoughts on, how she described herself. I think it was a big aha moment for us, right?
Yeah, I
She
remember
described
that.
herself in her bio as a part-time mom and a full-time entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, right?
And for us being moms, every mom out there, you've seen the guilt trip, is real,
Yeah,
right? So kind of she opened those doors of like, yes, you can be guilt free. You can have this career, whether
very true.
planned or not. Like, children come, they came, they are important, but what you build for yourself, that's your identity. And doing that, she's being a role model, and that's something we've learned, doing all of these things, whether it's having a career and running a family, all of that, you kind of imbibing a lot of values, especially for girls, right? And telling them
Yeah.
that it's not impossible to do both, and being guilt-free while doing it, and not being shy about asking for help. Because I remember how she was talking about how there was a time when her husband was in India, she was in another part of the country, and her friends and neighbors were helping, take care of Zoe for a few days, and doing all of that and saying, yes, it's okay. That is
Yeah.
why they say it takes a village, right?
Yeah. Really, her episode was a lot. It was
Yeah.
memorable in that she really made parenting and motherhood, gave it a whole different perspective
Yeah.
on raising children as still being a working moms and doing all the stuff that you're passionate about.
Mhm.
So yeah, hats off to Shwetha for juggling such a beautiful, juggling in such a beautiful way, and
Mhm.
making us all feel and wanting to do something similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the next question I think you have is something a guest said, their perspective that left a mark on you. And I think you kind of answered that with Shwetha,
Yes,
right?
I
In
kind
a
of
way.
did. But
Yeah.
I remembered this quote that, something that Anjali Bhimani said,
Mhm.
she said was, whatever level of expertise, experience you have with something, the commitment to being in it 100% can make up for the lack of either. And I think that was extremely, extremely, just hit me hard. And it was like, wow.
Yeah.
So this last one is actually not quite a question,
Mhm.
but recently I met with my friend and fellow podcaster of the Ruse and Shine podcast. Her name is Victoria Roos Olsen, and she talked to me. She's big. She's actually a management consultant, so she
Mhm.
does a lot of these, career talks, and she's a guest speaker at various events, and
Mhm.
um, so she was telling me this very interesting thing. She's like, one of the things she does every year is booking an end of the year status check meeting with herself.
That's
And during
wonderful.
this meeting, you take a moment to reflect on the year, and to reflect on what's worked, what hasn't, what were your wins, and what are some habits you want to keep, and what are some habits you want to leave behind. And then celebrating, as we celebrate the new year, and kind of thing, it makes all of that more meaningful. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, no,
So
it's amazing that she mentioned. I didn't think about it
mhm,
too, but we all try to have New Year's goals and resolutions. But I think the one thing that we have to do probably is such a great idea is to reflect.
mhm,
Because only when you reflect, you know what you want to leave behind and aspire for new things that
yeah,
you want to add
yeah,
on. That's
yeah.
great. Yeah, love it.
Mhm.
We should
And
do it.
they actually have a very good episode on like everything from like creating a vision board and
Mhm.
setting goals. So she's very, very big on it. And I still remember when I was talking to her about, like, she was asking me, we met after a couple of years, and she was asking me about my year, and I was telling her the different projects I was working on. And that's when she was like, no, you need to do this, so then you exactly know your path forward and what really brings you joy, etc. So yeah, I thought that
That's
was
wonderful.
mhm.
Let's do it, Shweta.
Yeah, we totally should. So
So,
any ending thoughts from her?
so yeah, absolutely. Do you want? So one thing that we've learned over the last year is, especially from all these interviews and all these wonderful women that actually gave us their time, their story, and their truth, is that it reminds me of a quote from Oscar Wilde: "Is be yourself because everyone else is taken." And I think that is what we want to leave to 2022 with. God.
Yes. Ah, I love that. I love that. There's
Yeah.
nothing better than just being yourself. Yep,
Yes.
love it.
Absolutely. So, everyone, wishing you all a 2023 that's filled with many firsts
Good health.
and everything that brings you absolute joy.
Yes. So
Until
until
2023.
2023, bye from the Chai Break Podcast Tour, Shweta.
And Rema, see you all in
Yes.
2023 with many Chaiversations. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.